Hey, it's me, Maggie J. Today with a review of the first 2 episodes of the 3rd season of Reservation Dogs, the greatest indigenous television show in creation. And I'm glad to report they've lost nothing in the time they've been away. I'm going to try to be quick about this because I don't have a whole lot of time to edit these days, and as much as I love going through scene by scene, it'd take me till the end of the month to get done with these 2 episodes, and a third one has already dropped on me, so I'm just going to do my best to explain a little bit about what happened and how I feel about it, and not take an hour on each episode, even though I could definitely talk about each one for probably at least that long. Now, when we last left off, our favorite teenage runaways had made it to California to take Daniel's freshman year letter to the ocean. Mabel's car was stolen from them, but they found a friend in White Jesus who gave them shelter, until the cops showed up to bust up the tent city. But the kids persevered, carrying on towards the ocean until they were able to take the letter and themselves all the way to the shore and kind of cleanse themselves in the waves. It was beautiful. But that moment has passed, and these kids have no money, no car, no way of getting back to Oklahoma, or fending for themselves here on the streets of Los Angeles. White Jesus can only help so much, you know? So that's where we start episode 1. But hold on, because here comes Aunt Teeny, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, getting car sick in this Uber because LA traffic is just horrible. She finds the kids and thanks White Jesus, who must stink if you see Alora's face when they give their goodbye hugs. And then they're all on their way back to Oklahoma on a bus. That's how they got the name of this episode, Bussin'. Throughout all this, the Spirit, aka William Knifeman, is narrating and bragging about what a good indigenous storyteller he is, and advancing the timeline. By the way, we get to see everything this man has under his loincloth. The pixelation department was working overtime this week. During a bus change in Amarillo, Aunt Teeny calls her job and tells them she's still sick, but later tells Alora she might have lost her job, which feels really cruel. She makes pamphlets that are to be distributed in the res clinics, and she's worked there for 8 years, so unless she's a bad employee, it kind of feels like she should be able to take a few emergency days off for family issues without getting fired over it. But we don't know her work ethic or attendance history, so it just feels shitty from this perspective. Anyway, Alora and Teeny talk about adult life. Teeny explains there's no magical moment or turning point where she started feeling like an adult. She still feels the same way about being an adult as she did when she was Alora's age. The years have just given her baggage that she never learned how to let go of, and those bags get heavier every year, which makes her sympathetic toward people like Cookie and Daniel. She doesn't know how much they were carrying that led them to where they wound up. I love this way of looking at what happened to each of these individuals without blame or shame. Thank you, Teeny. I hope Alora is reading between the lines and realizing she has to deal with her emotional baggage, or she's going to be another weighed down grown-up who feels like they're still not mature enough to be this old. Willie Jack comes to let them know their bus has arrived, so they all rush to get in line behind Bear and Cheese. During the ride, Willie Jack gets to see Cheese's drawings and compliments him on his skill. She wasn't aware he was such an artiste. He asks if she's worried about being left behind by Bear and Alora, but as usual, she's mostly unbothered. He confesses he worries about all of them leaving him, including his grandma, since he's the youngest, but Willie Jack assures him she's not going anywhere. This trip to California has made her appreciate her home more than ever, and she has no urge to leave it behind. Aw, these two are so freaking sweet. Eventually, they pull up to the bus station in Oakern, and they see Rita, Irene, Leon, Mose, and Miko are all waiting for their return. They hop off the bus and soon realize the person they thought was standing in line to get on the bus ahead of Cheese wasn't Bear. It's just some guy with a bun wearing a similar patterned shirt. Bear was left behind at the station in Texas. Way to just forget to look at or talk to or check up on your best buddy Bear during this long-ass bus ride, all of you. There is actually a lot that happens in this episode, and I encourage everyone on this planet to watch this series so they don't miss out on any of the jokes or visuals of what is happening here. That being said, there are a few scenes I saved until here at the end to discuss because they were chopped up a bit and I didn't want to subtract from how important they are by following it up with a funny transition. Firstly, about Bear's father. After their trip to the shore, Bear called Pumpkin, but the number had been disconnected, or whatnot. But he knew his dad's address, so they went by there and knocked on the door. A woman answers, and she is not in the fucking mood for anything, really. We can see that tropical landscape on the wall behind her, so we know that this is the apartment Pumpkin called Bear from way back in season 1. But now this redheaded woman is there with 3 to 4 young kids with dark hair. She says Pumpkin left with his manager 2 weeks ago for a gig in Oakland, and she hasn't heard from him since, and she is not happy about it. She shuts the door on them, but Bear isn't done. He knocks again and asks if he can leave something with her, for Pumpkin. He takes off his beaded medallion, the extraordinary microphone one Auntie B made for him, and leaves a note that says, "For once, I get to decide how you disappear." The woman slams the door in his face again, and once she reads the note, she's even more pissed, because neither of them can ignore the fact that Pumpkin is a piece of shit who doesn't care a lick about his kids. None of them. And he's been that way this whole time. This is a sad scene for Bear, but utterly essential for him to realize this fact and understand that it was never his fault. Bear will hurt less when he stops believing his father is a good guy that just got distracted by his dreams. It's much easier to cope once you realize you're not the problem. So I am proud of Bear for doing this, but I still cried for his loss. Secondly, about Elora's father. Elora thought the guy on the motorcycle with Cookie was her father, since Mabel always told her she wouldn't speak ill of the dead whenever Elora asked about him. But Teeny knows who he is. She's friends with him on Facebook even. She doesn't tell Elora who he is, other than that he's a white guy, but it does seem like we're gonna find out more about him. If it's Kenny from the salvage yard, I'm gonna treat myself to steak and shrimp for being such a good guesser. Anyway, back to another scene I forgot to talk about. How Bear got left at the bus station in Amarillo. See, what had happened was, Bear was in the bus station bathroom when who should appear? The spirit, of course, with his butt cheeks hanging out, telling Bear he shouldn't get on this bus. His journey goes down a different path. But this is not what Bear wants to hear. He's already done what the spirit told him by getting a job and taking Daniel's letter to the ocean. Why isn't that enough? When he walks out of the station, he sees he's missed the bus and everyone he knows is gone. But the spirit assures him this is where he's supposed to be. And that's it for episode 1, but it transitions so easily into episode 2, you can tell they were meant to be released together. Episode 2. Apparently Bear is supposed to be wandering in this desert, getting nearly attacked by the spirit of some Spanish colonizer fuck who died out here on this plane. But on he goes. After what looks like a long time walking, listening to the spirit's weird anecdotes and self-made sound effects, Bear loses his patience. He needs food and water. He wants to go home, but this spirit keeps showing up and not being helpful in the way Bear needs, and he never asked for this. To see spirits and have them not leave him alone. He says the spirit is like the opposite of his dad, which takes the wind right out of the spirit's sails. And a single tear rolls down his cheek, like in that littering commercial from way back. Bear continues walking, but is shot by an arrow that knocks him out. Then someone in some kind of ATV or side-by-side picks him up and ties him to a chair in their house. This is Graham Greene, known for his role in Dances with Wolves. He is the guest star for this episode, and his name is Maximus. I'm not sure when he shares this information, but that's what Bear calls him, and that's the name of the episode, so I'll believe it. His home is covered in symbols and aluminum foil and newspaper clippings. He thinks Bear has been sent to find him, since they're both from Okern. Then he starts talking about UFO sightings and a spike in hospitalizations, while at the same time Sonics all over Oklahoma ran out of tater tots. Bro is definitely operating on a different wavelength. Bear asks for a bathroom break and tries to summon William Knifeman, Bloody Mary style, in the mirror, but no luck. Maximus lets him know he's got to stop talking to himself or people are going to think he's crazy. And that's coming from a guy who has aluminum foil over the cupboard doors, so learn the lesson, Bear. They get back into the go-kart thing and take a tour of Maximus's land. They go to a greenhouse to tend to a bunch of eggplants that aren't meant for humans to consume. It's food for the star people when they come back. Maximus shows Bear to his Radio Shack, if you will, where he picks up radio signals. They go inside and he starts a video projector that plays a reel of him when he was young, along with a young Mabel, and I think this is Irene, along with a guy named Buchanan who read a lot of poems. Bear asks where those friends are now, but Maximus turns it back around and asks where his friends are. Did he let them leave him behind on purpose because they weren't listening to him when he wanted to be alone? Maximus then gives a warning about what happens when those around you don't believe you, about what you see and hear that they can't perceive. That's when they tie you to a bed and shock your brain with electricity. This broke my heart a little bit because I know what he's talking about, and it is absolutely horrific how people used to be treated just because their brains operated out of the norm. Bear says his friends believe him about seeing the spirit, but Graham challenges him again. Then what's your fucking problem? Like, Bear has no clue how good he has it that his friends believe him and don't want to give him electroshock therapy to fix him. The video keeps playing and I'm a little confused because the timeline doesn't seem to add up. Maximus mentions the name Brownie, and this guy here looks like Chokaji, the great white warrior from Alora's driving test, but Brownie lived with Mabel while he was younger, so they shouldn't be in high school together at the same time. And Brownie's older than Cookie and them, so does every friend group in Oakern have a guy they call Brownie and an athletic white guy? Maybe? Maximus shows Bear a tunnel he can use to get back to the highway if anything happens. Then they go watch for UFOs and talk about the deepness of life. And I gotta say, this sky in this scene is amazing. Don't go by my terrible screen cap. You should really see this for yourself. Eventually, they go inside and make spaghetti soup with ramen noodles. Maximus tells Bear he doesn't really like people, but he's alright. Bear is welcome to stay as long as he would like. There's plenty of projects for them to work on together. The next morning, while Maximus is grinding coffee, a flash like lightning lights up the kitchen, and Maximus tells Bear he needs to go. They're here. Several people in dark gray jumpsuits are walking towards the property, along with some cops and a lady in a business suit. Feels like a fad, but she's probably a social worker. Maximus tosses Bear a bag and tells him to go home to his people. Then he walks out to greet the authorities with eggplants in hand. They are here to take him back, and he goes willingly, likely so Bear can get away without interference. Bear takes Maximus's bandana and keys, harvests some eggplants and roots, then heads into the scary-looking tunnel. Soon enough, he is through without much issue, then he is on his way again, hopefully toward Oakern, but at least he's got some supplies now, even if he is without a spirit guide. This episode left me with a bunch of questions, but they're probably not that important, really. The lesson here is Bear needs to learn to appreciate his gifts, including seeing those pesky spirits he is so annoyed by, and his friends' acceptance of him, just the way he is. I think the best line comes from Maximus when he says, "Life's tough. We should be proud that we can still love." That is such a powerful line. Whoever wrote that deserves some extra spaghetti soup. The music of this season is really hitting me just the right way. Great job to Mato, who's been the musical director for the whole show and instills such depth into these scenes with just the perfect sounds and lyrics to accentuate what is happening on screen. It's been quite a journey so far with just these 2 episodes, from leaving California and dealing with daddy issues and Aunt Teeny and colonizers. There really is so much going on so quickly, it's tough to cover it all, so you just gotta watch and then let me know how you feel about what is happening. I'm gonna stop here because the next episode is pretty heavy and I'll need to watch it a few more times before I can talk about it without crying, so thank you so much for watching. I hope the rest of your week treats you kindly, and y'all be sure to stay safe out there.